What's up, guys? So today we have Jesse Stanton all the way up in Alaska. He's joining us in awesome dialogue on co-living that we're going to dive into. But he is one of the first, 50 members inside of Subto, Jesse?
You know what? I wish I could remember the number. I wish there was a way that was like to remember exactly. I mean, I think they track like maybe the first five. Maybe somebody knows if they were number 10 or not, but I was up there for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to discuss one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen in co-living lately. We're going to first talk about how Jesse got into real estate, then we're going to dive into the more co-living specifics. Jesse, you've been in Sub 2 for 4 years. Were you already in real estate before that? Or like help us understand how Jesse got to where he is today with a massive team, excellent portfolio, like the genesis of all this.
For sure. Actually, so Dustin, thank you for the opportunity to be here. First and foremost, this is awesome. Really excited. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I'm excited to build and strengthen our friendship and our relationship. And I love what you're doing here. I love the conversation that you're bringing to everybody. So, contrary to popular belief, Dustin, believe it or not, I knew absolutely nothing about real estate. I was in the Air Force. I was working active duty, and I was an instructor. And I had a friend who reached out to me one random day. It was a childhood friend. We hadn't talked in probably like 15 or 20 years. And he reaches out to me and he says, "Hey, have you thought about getting into real estate?" And I was like, "Yeah, I thought about getting my realtor's license when I lived in Phoenix a few years ago." And he's like, "No, no, no, no." I was like, "I'm not talking about being an agent." He's like, "I'm talking about being an investor." And I kind of gave him this big, long, sarcastic response. And luckily he was real gracious with me, Dustin, because I was like, dude, you can go Google what I get paid in the military. It's not like I got six figures just burning a hole in my pocket. So I can go buy an igloo and rent it out in Anchorage, Alaska. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I got a meeting with some other investors later on in the week. How about you just jump on a Zoom on Thursday and just be a fly on the wall? And Dustin, to be honest with you, between us gals, I didn't even want to do it. I didn't want to jump in. But then I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, then I've got to come up with another freaking excuse that I'm going to have to give him of why I committed and then backed out. And I was like, oh, I'll just jump in just so I can make an appearance. I turned my camera off. I put myself on mute and I'm just half listening as I'm playing games on my phone.
Mhm.
And then they start talking about making money, but making money leveraging other people's money, leveraging other people's debt, leveraging other people's credit. And I thought, this sounds like a scam, but if it's not, this is going to change my freaking life. And that's what started the rabbit hole for me, my friend. That's where
So was that meeting like, pre Sub 2? Was it like a Sub 2 meetup, or was this a more general like RIA type, or what kind was this?
it was a virtual. I mean, I live in Alaska, so there's like two people that live up here, me and Bill Fisher, and that's it. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of meetups that I was aware of, but no, from what I remember, it was just a childhood friend of mine, and then he had some other people that he was doing real estate with. They just happened to have a meeting that he just welcomed me into. Yeah, it wasn't any kind of like a formal
Like a
thing
little
or anything that I
mastermind, huh?
recall. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I questioned because it was as soon as you start hearing other people's money, other people's credit, that's my natural connection. So it's cool to hear just a different context, the same principles, like a universal truth.
well, hindsight's always 2020, right? Like you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so fast forward, me knowing everything about subject to and how to, some of those creative strategies, that's now how I convey that story. That's not necessarily the verbiage that they were using, but that was the story that they were telling.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so you went to that, and then it obviously ignited a spark of some sort. What was your next maybe big move or medium-sized move in the timeline of Jesse Stanton?
Well, immediately, probably within the next month, I started asking my friend more and more about it. And I'm like, well, how can I get started in this? And he referred me to, it wasn't a mentorship. In my mind, I thought it was a mentorship. But before I joined Sub 2, I had no idea what community was. And so he told me that this educational program was 23,000. And I about just fell out of my chair. I'm like, dude, I make like 23 grand a year in the freaking military, bro. Not really, but it was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you sure you don't mean 2,300? Because even 2,300 would be like, I've got to think about this for the next 6 months. let alone 23,000. There was a little bit of a sales pitch there, and I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, well, something's got to change because I'm just not feeling fulfilled in the military. Like, there's got to be something else out there that I can put my efforts towards. And so I thought, man, if even if I could go make another $100,000 over the course of the next 12 months, like obviously that alone would be worth it. Not only would I pay off that 23 grand, but it would make it all worth it. And so Dustin and I went and maxed out 2 credit cards to do it and took the next 30 days off of work, which is a big
Mm,
deal.
I
And
like that.
there
Yeah.
were there were 6 to 8 hour long recorded videos, and they were just talking about the thing. They weren't talking how there's no implementation. It was just information. And I thought I was going to get implementation, but implementation to most other people is different when you compare it to a community like Subto. I mean,
Mhm.
that is what implementation looks like. So it was very apparent to me over the next 2 weeks of me just watching 6 to 8, even when I had questions, they had a small little Facebook group, and when I would have questions, I'd go in there and ask a question, and the response I would get in Sub 2, you'd get, "Hey, let's jump on a call, let's jump on a Zoom. I will walk you through this right now. Let's call a seller, actually, as a matter of fact, right now." The response I got in that community was, "Well, hey, did you go back and watch this video again?" I'm like, "Guys, I don't have 6 to 8 hours long, to go watch
Yeah.
this video again. Can nobody just help me answer this question?" And so it was very apparent to me, Dustin, after a couple weeks, I was like, this is not going to cut it. Like, what I'm getting in here, I knew instantly that it wasn't even going to be what I needed to be able to pay off the 23 grand. And that was when I found Sub 2.
Is it a YouTube ad or what was it?
It was, I don't even think he had ads or anything going on at the time. I happened to listen to I started as soon as I joined that, I don't know if you call it community education program. I started joining other real estate Facebook groups just randomly. And one of those just so happened to be the free Facebook group that we know of, Creative Financing with Pace Morby. And I remember randomly just like this all must have been just like a godsend because how the coincidental of how all this happened is just, it's just crazy, dude. I just randomly scrolling through Facebook, came across one of Pace's posts about a podcast he did with Steve Train, and it was something about how to make 20 grand a month in passive income without taking out a loan or something like that. It's on YouTube. It's really great. But I listened to that podcast and I was like, who the hell is Pace Morby? I'm getting more value from this free podcast
Yeah.
than I've gotten for $23,000 worth of education. And then
Something tangible.
that's what caused me to start looking more and more into it. That's
Yeah,
how I came across him.
it's cool. I've liked the fact, essentially you're talking about something like tangible, something you could bite on is the big difference. Something you're like, you watch 30 seconds, you're like, boom, I can go do that.
Yeah, he was talking about how he talked to sellers. And I was like, holy crap, like I'm getting a like, is he seriously really giving this out for free right now? I cannot, this is worth a millions of dollars. I cannot believe that he's telling me exactly what he says to a seller, what their response is, and what his rebuttal is, and how he does this. Just all live in a free podcast. I was like, if he does this for free, I cannot imagine what it's like to be in that community.
No, it's cool too. It's like earlier this week, we have a couple deals we're buying right now. One of them, like we have the capital raise. It's a co-living deal. We have the capital raise, but the lender, even though we're using a DSCR on this specific one, the lender doesn't like the way the capital is accumulated, even though they say no seasoning. But we're supposed to close Friday, and they're telling us Friday. So anyway, I send Pace a voice memo like, "Hey man, I know you've already done a ton for me, and I don't really have anything to lose. So I figured I ask your opinion on best way to handle this." And he's like, "I'll just buy it cash and we refi. You pay me back." And it's nuts that we're in a community like that. It's not just this fake course that you're funneled into. Someone collects your money and you don't hear anything. It's like very real action items inside like the actual course, but then also inside the community, you'll find people like that, him himself. And it's pretty wild. Like, everyone knows the saying, your network is your net worth. It's so real.
Dude, it really is. I was reading a book this morning on my way to the gym called Psycho Cybernetics. Have you
Oh
heard of that
man,
one?
have I heard of it? I've read that book Out of any book, I know we've talked about a bunch. I've literally read that book more than any book on the planet.
Really? I haven't read it before, and I was reading it this morning for the first time.
It's one of the OG books.
Dude, it's really great.
Mhm.
There was a part in there where he's talking about, I don't remember it verbatim. I have to go back and listen to it. But what I took from it was how important your environment is in shaping your reality, the conversations, the seeds that get planted, the ideas. And then he compared that to, or at least the way I took it, because he also talked about being hypnotized. And it's just like being hypnotized when somebody in your environment, if you're in a negative environment with around negative people who are always skeptical, calling everything's a scam and you can't do this and you can't do that, it has the same effect on you that a hypnotist would in getting you to do something. And so having your environment being intentional with the people that you're being around and the information that you're taking in is crucial to your success, the life you want to build, the money you want to make, the people you want to serve, the impact you want to have.
Yeah,
Very
it's
amazing.
very real.
Yeah.
Yeah, inside Subto, essentially, I know we're both pretty deep into co-living. I know we both buy different things. Co-living is definitely an evolving trend right now. I don't know if trend's even the right word. I think it is more long term than a quick flash in the pan.
Yeah. On
Um,
social media, it's a trend. It just seems it's a
yeah.
buzzword.
And so I know, so we both own some co-living. When was the first co-living deal that you bought? How long ago?
4th
What's
quarter of 2023.
That's about right where mine was actually, Orlando. And then how was it, a creative deal, cash deal, or like how did it fall in your lap? Or did it? Did you have to fight for it?
I honestly journey's a little bit. I guess let me give you some context here. So, probably around September of 2023, I've been wholesaling this whole time. Purchased one property, I think it was April of 2023. That was the first property I'd ever purchased. It was just a rental in Hampton, Virginia. But the rest of the time we'd been wholesaling. And then as of September, I remember there was a day in September that I just happened to wake up one day and I was like, is wholesaling getting me closer to what I want to do? Like it's been at this point, 3 years that I've been doing this now. I got in here to build wealth. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki isn't talking about how he built his wealth from flipping paper. And I was like, why am I doing that? But this is the result that I'm wanting, but I'm not focused on the result. I'm focused on what I think the process needs to be. And so immediately we stopped wholesaling. We had about 2,000 leads in our CRM and we just canceled our subscription to our CRM, let all those leads go. And we basically started a brand new business in maybe 48 hours. And my partner at the time was like, yeah, dude, I'm all on board. Like, let's go. And so we changed everything. I changed how we hired. I changed how we led. I changed how we are structured. I changed how we set goals. I changed how we measured goals. And so before when we were wholesaling, and this is all going to kind of lead into, your question here, but I want to give the listener some context. Most people hire down here, they make their first hire like a VA or an acquisitions manager. And granted, if they're making the calls and stuff, that's great, but you didn't really buy back your time in a way that's necessary to scale the business. All you did was put yourself in a glorified boss or even manager position because now you've got to oversee that person, you got to train that person, you got to, there's just so much that goes into making sure that they are successful that now that's where your time is being spent as opposed to growing the business. So when we decided to pivot and start buying real estate, our first hire immediately, like within the next 45 days from that, was to go hire somebody directly underneath us. So instead of hiring down here on the totem pole, it was somebody to come in to work directly underneath us. And we didn't just hire anybody, we hired an A player, like somebody who knew what the hell they were doing. Really took a lot of, Henry Ford and Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy principles and philosophies in revamping our processes here. So all of this to say, we found somebody to come in and run the entire operation. Somebody who knew what they were doing. They could handle the entire thing. So for the sake of time, I won't get into too much depth on that, but we made that transition and then October, November and December, I mean, we went and bought a lot of properties during that 4th quarter. So you're asking me like, "Hey, what was the first what was the first property you guys bought, and did you have I don't even remember. I have no idea. Like, that whole
Yeah.
4th quarter was just a blur. It was just buy, 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 raise capital, and it put me because I had somebody else that was running the operations. So now I was in a position to just my whole time was just raising capital and finding other people to buy deals from. I actually came across a Facebook memory last week of a screenshot that I took in 2023, and I asked our team in a group text. I said, "Hey guys, I don't remember the address. Hey, where are we at on 123 Main Street? Where are we at on closing on that?" And the reply from my team was, "We closed on that 2 weeks ago, Jesse." I'm like, "Dude, that's bitching. That's awesome. Like, that's what you want." So so yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what our first co-living property was or what the details were. Somebody else on my team, my operations manager, was handling all of that stuff. He was our point of contact between us and the wholesaler and us and the agents when we do buy properties that are on market. And he was vetting all the contractors. He was getting and handling sending them out there for the bids and all that kind of stuff. So I was completely hands off on all of that so that I could go raise more capital and get more deals coming in.
Hire, did you do a commission structure or is it a
That's how
hybrid?
that's how I started it out. Yeah. Was a
Yeah.
commission structure. Yep. And then
Yeah,
and
right.
then ended up giving him a little bit of equity into some of the properties, depending on, us meeting our milestones and if we thought that we were gonna be a good fit for each other after those first 90 days.
Dated for the 90. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. So essentially he has like a hybrid pay now where it's commission based, like performance growth. And then the salary, it's more actually like he has a residual of cash flow on the ones that you're accumulating now.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've actually brought him as a partner now. He's been awesome. So we've elevated him. We brought him in. He's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're in the middle of really dialing in our ops manager. I've wholesaled a lot with her. She's a TC that is elevating into the ops side.
Mm.
It's game changing.
Dude, it
So
really is, man.
regarding, there's a couple questions I like to ask anyone that we talk about co-living and whatever you're comfortable with, of course. But I think you said in the past you have 80 beds, co-living beds, roughly across however many houses,
Uh-huh.
10 properties, something like that. How much would you say gross cash flow, like before you're divvying up the cash flow, among partners, but what would you say the gross,
Gross revenue, probably around like between 30 and 40,000.
and this is after expenses
No, no, no. No,
or
this is
no,
gross.
just pure
Gross.
gross. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just, I hear it used in a variety of different ways. So let's say you pay all your expenses, right? We go from 30, 40. You pay the mortgage, utilities, all that. Where
Mhm.
would you say you're at now before you break it up between your team? It's like your net before other partners.
Like for the company,
Yeah, the company.
man, I'd have to go back and see where we are. We went on a tirade last year of just buying properties, and then we spent a good chunk of last year, like, getting them all up and running, and then you know how real estate is.
Stabilized.
Basically spent a good chunk of
Curveballs.
last year getting everything stabilized. There's actually even some of the residual stuff that we're working on right now as well. And then we recently just took a big pivot into getting away from pad split. Not that it's bad. We'll continue to pick up more pad split, but now our focus is the Golden Girls co-living
Mm.
model. So that's kind of more what we're diving into. So in terms of finances, I don't know that we've had enough of our portfolio stabilized enough yet where everything is up and running and everything is fully occupied to be able to give you and say, "Hey, this is exactly what you can expect if you replicate what we're doing."
No, that's fair. All right. So gross, it's pulling in, let's call it 35K
Mhm.
gross a month. Would you say moving forward, you're going to hyper focus on Golden Girls, or is it a couple things that you want to buy, or what is officially your buy box? Like if someone wants to bring you deals.
I would say yes. Golden Girls is the thing that we are going to hyper focus on right now. I'm at a point now where I want to focus on other things. Like real estate will probably, for me, be something I continue obviously investing in, but it's more of a tax strategy as opposed to my main thing that I want to be known for, the thing that I really, really want to focus on.
Yeah, and that we spoke about that briefly last week. That's officially your Everest, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So, like anyone listening in Owners Club, we have a Mount Everest. It's a 5-year goal. It's supposed to be monstrous, exciting, scary, all in one. So, in I guess your one line, 30-second elevator version, what is officially your Everest?
In short, to help 1.74 million people make $700,000 a year or more.
I like it. Yeah, because what would you say the best medium is that you're going to do that through? Is it virtual workshops? Is it in-person workshops? Or what would you say the 80/20 rule is going to most effectively let you do that?
That's a good question, man. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. But I think that's the point of having a Mount Everest is that you don't know. You don't know. You kind of start setting these milestones. I actually have a Zoom I'm running with Owners Club this morning, and that's what we're going over. Is you got your Mount Everest, which is your 5 to 10 year goal, and then you got your base camp, which is kind of that middle ground. It's like, hey, this is where are you going to be? What's that milestone in the next 2 to 3 years that you need to be at? And then we're going to start talking about our trailhead. So in order for us to get going on where we need to be the rest of the year to get to this base camp in the next 24 to 36 months, what do the next 90 days need to look like? And so I kind of set that Mount Everest, and I'm kind of just building this parachute on my way down. So I can tell you a good portion of it is going to have to be through social media, but I don't know if that is just from a reach perspective yet, or I don't know if that's going to be from getting more people to live events. I think it's all going to contribute. Watch what have you seen what Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins are doing?
Those big virtual ones?
Yeah, they do it like every March or something like that. And they got like millions of people on there, dude. Freaking
Yeah.
wild. So I don't know if something like that might be something that I have to start getting into, and start getting more of that reach. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I think I saw on one of your social medias, Pace sent you a 6-minute voice memo, and I've been able to talk with him on the phone. Voice memos, always save them, golden. What would you say the top takeaway was from that voice memo he recently sent you?
Jesse, you need to go all in on social media. Let me be really specific. Jesse, you need to not be just doing social media because it's a good idea. You shouldn't do it and even stay consistent with it. Do it when you can. It's a priority. You need to do it every day. He said, Jesse, that should literally be the only effing thing. He didn't use the F word. That's just how I talk. He said that should be the only thing that you do. That should be where you're spending not just some of your time, a good chunk of your time, not even most of your time, all of your time.
If he didn't say, which would you say is the number one medium of social media that you're gonna hyper focus dominate? I got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, like got a whole list. What is gonna number in?
I think they all kind of feed into each other. Like since he gave me that, like I had to go back and sit down with all my partners and all my businesses and say, hey, this is going to be the thing that I need to focus on. And it's crazy to even see what has happened this week because this just happened last week. So I went all in this week and I spent about 5 or 6 hours a day every single day this week just putting out content. So I put out long form content, a podcast, and then I do live Zooms and stuff throughout the week, and I just throw those things onto YouTube as well. But then I did a lot of short form content as well through Instagram and Facebook, and it's crazy how fast things have picked up from just 1 week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe because what I used to think about, and I think that here's how most people used to think about is, especially people who are in W-2. You've got your W, and then you have your business that you focus on after your W-2. And then you've got your life and your family, and maybe your kids have games and just dance recitals and kind of other things going on. And then in your head, if you have time before bed and you remember to make a post, then you'll do it. And it's interesting because that's how I used to play the game. And now I'm learning more and more and more, especially after my conversation with Pace and seeing the results of this week. That needs to be the only thing that I'm doing. All of it, every second of my life needs to be spent on social media. And he gave me some specific examples as it pertains to him, but I'm not going to share those details. But pretty, pretty wild, man.
So if you have the time, I think you might find this intriguing. Inside of Owners Club, there's essentially its own vault. I know Pace has done some recent social media, but we last year, year one of Owners Club, we had two retreats, Scottsdale, Boston. In Boston, he spent about at least 4 hours all on social media, and I think you'd really like it. It's gold. And I remember one of the big takeaways, in his opinion back then at least, he said out of all the things you could hit on social media, he said YouTube will always be number one. Like, mark my words. So I think you'd like that. It's like 4 or 5 hours worth of just him hot seating different people talking about the strategy that's appropriate for him.
Interesting. I believe it, dude.
Mhm.
He told me I gave him, let me see if I can go find it. I gave him, I don't want to say an objection. Uh, hey, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Anyway, I was talking to him about something and he asked me something. I was responding to him, but I was telling him why I didn't think I could do something. And his response, I'll read it to you. He said, I didn't have a following either until I built one. Took 4 years on the road. No one cared about me. No one helped. Just me and my little thumbs posting Instagram content. I said, challenge accepted. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Well, we are going to do one in Miami. It's a matter of just which month. Uh, feet. So at the beginning, before we wrap up, we mentioned number one mistake I've seen in co-living, and I'm curious your thoughts on how you handle these scenarios. Tracy and I taught co-living semesters inside of Subto, and so naturally people come to us a lot, especially when they're in trouble. So I get a message 1 a.m. this morning. Basically, this is the deal from like six months, a year ago. Some lady bought a deal and bought it with a partner, and basically she let at close they opened a new bank account and stuff. Both partners had access to all the rehab money. Now this guy was in Subto that she partnered with. It was he is, he's not. So basically at close, she had 100 grand in the shared bank account. This guy did 100 grand just gone. So she's in heavy arrears. I won't go into too specific because I don't want it to, I don't want to release her info, nothing like that. But what are some things in your rehabs that you're doing that help protect this private capital that you raise? You spend all this time and energy on social media. You're raising capital. How do you protect it from scenarios like that?
Good question. I like to limit the amount of people that have access to it. And I like to be really clear. I think communication is one of those things that is sorely underrated. I wish more people would spend more time on really building that skill around communication and understanding what it means to be upfront and have clear and concise communication. There's a lot of times as humans, especially when you're doing things virtually, because we express so many things in person and we use nonverbals to communicate in ways that a lot of times say more than our words could. And so when you're doing things virtually, it makes it extremely imperative to make sure that expectations are crystal clear and everybody is on the same freaking page. And I think there's a lot of times when just assumptions are made, especially when it comes to things like money. There's just assumptions made about who's doing what, they're trustworthy, what happens if this happens. Like everyone just assumes, especially into when you get into a partnership, that just everybody's on the right page. And you have to be so clear and concise. You know, one of the things I learned from the military is the way that I love the military and how they teach and how they structure things and how they communicate is they don't teach you how to do things to where you get it right. They teach you how to do things to where you can't get it wrong. And you need that level of attention to detail and clarity when you're dealing with life or death and you're dealing with $150 million stealth aircraft. We can't just mishap something or oversee something or trust or assume that somebody did something that's going to put a pilot or other lives in jeopardy. And so I've taken that same approach with everything that we do in our business. So if somebody else is in charge, like I have my ops manager that runs those finances. And so we have to put systems and processes and SOPs, and we have to make sure that him, us, and our lender are all on the same page on what's happening with that, who has access to it, who's going to be making the payments every single month, and then you gotta allow people the opportunity to get in there and to do it, and to pass on that authority. And so right from the get go, like just setting those expectations and standards are things that have made it really beneficial for us. Just having like a one point of contact. Not everybody needs access to the accounts. Not everybody needs this. Not everybody. It's just organizationally, it's got to be really structured, and that's all done through communication.
Yeah, I'd say a bonus that I've learned not too recent, but the more common is a contract will run off on a job, like they've already
Yep.
got their money.
Yep.
And some of the best builders, rehabbers I've met is they know they lose a lot of contractors through this vetting, but they'll actually make their contractor front the bill, like the material and the labor. Like they're not getting a dime. Now, I'm not saying this is normal. I'm saying these are the best I know in this side of the business. They make them front it all, and then until it either passes their own inspection or an actual inspection, like if it's permitted work, they're not getting paid. So there's never this upfront money release and trust. I know that's a lot harder to find those contractors that'll accept that, but
Mhm.
some of the bigger players I've seen, that's how they operate. All right, so Jesse, what is the best way? Let's say someone listens to this, they're like, I want to sell Jesse deals, I want to lend Jesse money. What is the best way to learn more about you and to contact you?
Both. I'm all over social media. I know some people are really picky on, well, I only want you reaching out to me here. That's not me, guys. Catch me on WhatsApp, on the gram, on the book face, my OnlyFans. I'm just kidding. I don't have an OnlyFans. Wherever you guys want to reach out to me, I'm totally open. The YouTubes, wherever, all of it, anything and everything. I'm,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, guys, Jesse Stanton, thanks for joining us.
Dustin,